Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Automatic's Dev AI NYC. We're thrilled to have such an incredible group here tonight. And while you're here, if you'd like to meet someone from Automatic, I'm going to point out a few to you. So over here, we have M. Shreve from our amazing AI team. Somewhere around here, we have Dave Martin. Over there. Dave leads our creators team here at Automatic. And here we have Paulo Belcastro. If you want to learn about domains, this is your guy right here. They're here with a bunch of other automaticians tonight, and they'll help point you to other folks too if you want to learn more about Automatic. It's a privilege to bring together two people who have helped shape about the way that we think about data and systems that we build. Hilary is a data scientist and entrepreneur. She's the founder and CEO of Hidden Door. Previously, she founded Fast Forward Labs and served as the chief scientist at Bitly. She's long been a leading voice in making AI more practical, creative, and human-centered. Jesse Friedman is the head of WP Cloud here at Automatic, where he focuses on building infrastructure and products that connect AI to the real-world web, bringing new capabilities to the tools that people use every day. Ooh, my voice just got different. Tonight, they'll explore how AI moves from possibility to practice and what it takes to build systems that are not just powerful, but useful. Please welcome me, or not welcome me, please join me in welcoming Hilary Mason and Jesse Friedman.
Hello, everybody.
I can't believe I'm on stage with you.
I know.
So when I told everybody that Hillary was going to be giving a talk with me, everybody was like, "How do you know Hillary?" It actually goes back 20 plus years. Hillary was a professor of mine. That's how I met Hillary. And she basically pushed me to WordPress and a whole bunch of other stuff. I owe so much to Hillary. She doesn't know I'm doing this, but it's a little emotional because so much of my career trajectory was kicked off because of you. So thank you, Hillary.
Sweet. My version of that story is that I came out of grad school, became a professor, and Jesse was one of the poor students who ended up in the very first class I taught and was always a star, but also I had a lot of learning to do. And clearly we are still in touch, and it's been good.
Yeah. I actually went on to teach that fall after I graduated, and I ended up teaching some of the students who were in the classes with me. We both had like a kind of an awkward start to that, but we did so well, I think. So then you went from being a teacher, then you went off to Bitly, right?
Yeah.
Sort of
There
close
was
to that.
there was another startup in the middle that failed that was like,
No, we don't have to talk about failure.
well, it wasn't my company, but I also learned that when you do start a company, it really, really helps to actually build a product and make money. It was a very good lesson. Like,
I hope everybody's listening at home.
yes.
All right. Then you went on to Fast Forward Labs. You founded that one,
Hmm.
right? And then you sold it.
Yep.
And Fast Forward Labs was focused on AI and machine learning at a
Yeah.
very, very early stage.
Well, this was a company I founded in 2014 because, my background is in machine learning research, and I thought there was a tremendous amount of interesting work happening in academia that was disconnected from anything going on in the startup community, which was also super interesting, disconnected from anything going on in a larger corporate environment. And no one had figured out how to be a bridge between those three communities. And I wanted to build that bridge. So I created this company where we did our own program of applied research. And then we had customers who essentially paid us to, I always said we were their nerd best friends. And we really wanted to be the person you would call if you're like, oh, I heard that, like, IBM Watson is releasing this thing. What is it? Or I heard there was a paper. Is this relevant to what I'm actually doing? And then we would occasionally co-build products with our clients. So we also did some technology licensing. It was a very fun time. For a brief window, we had a space program. Because when you have a company and then NASA's like, you want to pitch us something. And then on the other hand, I had a friend whose company could not pitch a space program because that wasn't their business, but he actually knew what he was doing. So we had a space program. Um, yeah, we had a lot of fun. And then I sold that company to a company called Cloudera, which is a data platform vendor, and then was the general manager of their AI machine learning business unit for a few years. Also where I met my co-founder for Hidden Door. But that was also mainly working with customers across the Fortune 500 globally around their data, machine learning, thinking about what we could do with the data we had. After a few years, Cloudera had some like Game of Thrones on the board, and it was still and remains a tremendous business opportunity with a lot of wonderful people. And then also you may be able to tell that like corporate politics is not my favorite game to play. Um, like I'm more of a like RPG kind of player. And so yeah, I stepped out of that, and then we were sitting around thinking about the very first research project we did at Fast Forward Labs in 2014 was natural language generation. Does this work better if I move it slightly further away? Maybe. Yes. Okay. So natural language generation in 2014 is pre-transformer, pre-LLM, but still very possible. And we built a whole prototype that if you gave it structured data about a New York apartment, it would write the ad for you. Um, I'd always been following that area of research with absolute fascination. So we did a bunch of work in embeddings and automated summarization. When we were thinking, like, where is there unexplored surface area in machine learning that would open up the ability to build some new products and new businesses? We thought games, entertainment, and founded Hidden Door in 2020.
We have a really cool demo coming up, but just what's the elevator pitch?
Yeah, we're a platform where fanfic meets role playing, so you can make a character and role play stories in your favorite worlds. You said quick.
No, no,
Yeah, and like,
we're on the 11th floor, so I thought we might have more time, but that's awesome.
okay.
So at Automatic, we always consider ourselves lifelong learners. I see you as a lifelong educator. You're not a professor right now, but if you were to become a professor, what would you want to teach? Or rather, if anybody's going in, my daughter, Alexis, she's
Mhm.
going into college this fall, and I'm asking everybody this question: what should she be learning in this new age of AI?
Yeah, I love this question. And I will start by saying there is no one answer, and anyone who says they have the one answer is probably they're bullshitting. So thank you for listening to my bullshit answer because I have been thinking about this quite a lot. Um, because what really, like, what does it mean when you can automate an output so you no longer have to go through a process to create that output? Like, I can have my email client generate an email. I can have it write a doc. I can have it make slides. I can even have it make software. What matters about that process? Like, how do I make it do that well? And I think fundamentally, and what a lot of people will be saying is taste, like taste matters. Okay, so what is taste? Is it visual design taste? Like, what does that actually mean? And I think it is a robust socio-technical understanding of the systems that we live inside of, the human systems, how we relate to each other, how we learn, how people's minds work, what they want, what is good for them, and the organizational systems we are part of. Like, how does our government work? Why do companies exist, and why are they organized the way they are, and how do we get teams to work together? How do we collaborate? How do we communicate? It is that empathy, but an understanding of like, what do I need to tell you to help you accomplish your goal, which means I have a whole mental model of what your goal is and how you're doing whatever you're doing. And then it is the judgment and the ability to think through each piece of a system robustly to have if we were like startup hustle brewing, I'd say it's grit, right? But it's that stubbornness to like keep thinking about a problem until you really have given yourself and your own mind that understanding. And the ability to keep learning. And I don't know that we have, and perhaps folks can point me at people who've said this more articulately or more concisely. Like, I don't think we have a one word for what that is, but I think it is looking for, because the AI tools we see even today, they are magnifiers. They are, if you are amazing at something and you know what good looks like, you can use it to get there faster because you know which pieces you can give to a system and what context it needs. If you are not amazing, like at that, knowing what great looks like, and what the downstream impacts of all of your choices or its choices might be, you're going to really magnify the crap work you were capable of doing before. And that's not good for anyone else around you. Um, so it is really thinking about that. And so if the context is in the question of like, what should Alexa study? It is whatever can keep her excited, engaged, and passionate to the point where she builds those systems models, because I don't think that we will stay in the boxes that our major, might put us in. I don't know that many of the job titles we have now will be the same even 5 years from now. And I think that's really exciting. And it's a tremendous like opportunity for people who do want to break out of those boxes.
That was an amazing answer. You touched on one thing there, empathy, and I think that's something that I've been looking at from a philosophical and a sociological standpoint, from the point like thinking about empathy from understanding what users want, what our partners want, what our customers want, how to build products that speak the language of the person using it. And that's something that I think I'm getting away from saying that AI or LLMs are ever going to not be able to do something. Like, I don't want to say like it'll never be able to do that, but I feel like having true empathy is probably the last thing that it'll be able to do.
That is that's like a we all need drinks and we need to argue about it kind of statement. Like I'm still thinking about that one.
We're looking for something to fight over.
We were. I want to make an entertaining panel for everyone who's spending their hour with us, so we have to argue a bit. Yeah, I think that fundamentally, like people ask me all the time, I don't believe LLMs are creative, but we can debate that. What we can't debate is whose creativity matters. I think their creativity doesn't matter unless it is in service of somebody's desire to make something. And so it's more of a like, uh, even if they simulate empathy, like how are we wielding that? And is it to the end of making like a bot that encourages like a psychosis experience because it's so much easier to interact with than a human friend? Or is it in the service of actually like helping people do what they want to do? And then you have to think about all those incentives and the systems they're operating in, and that's yeah,
Yeah,
it's complicated.
for sure. All right. So there's an old adage that good artists borrow, great artists steal. I've said it now 6 times. Um, and from that perspective, what you're working on is a game and entertainment system that requires, narrative and language and stories and all that. You could have used LLM to write these stories, but you chose not to, and you chose to use humans and reward them for their work. Why did you go down that path?
Mentioning again, I have a long history working in machine learning and particularly like with transformer models or diffusion models or whatnot. And so to me, it is bonkers that anyone would think you can have it completely make something and have it have meaning, right? Like, or be good. And when you think about, again, like, what is a great role playing story adventure? Um, well, it's one that leans heavily into tropes, which are repeated narrative patterns, and LLMs can be quite good at that. But also one that surprises you, that like gives you a moment or a challenge or something to think about, that riffs off you, that pushes back. And that is not something that LLMs today can do in a way that is sufficiently satisfying. Um, and so that's just sort of like the technical layer of the explanation. So what we do at Hidden Door for creating the stories is that we write out by hand like a high level narrative beats, like what is a heist? You need a thing you want to steal. You need a crew. You need some like prep to like get through the, the secret detectors or the laser things. You need to actually try the heist and it appears like something's gone horribly wrong, but in the end, it's actually helping you. You need to get the thing, and then you have to, if this is like Fast and the Furious style, have your family barbecue where you talk about how it was all family, right? I love the Fast and the Furious. Big fan. But like those beats we can write down and we can put little tricks and guidance into them. And if you ask an LLM, you're gonna get what I would call like the sameness. It's flat. Like it doesn't have that like spark that makes it surprising. And so, when we think a lot about like what is an excellent heist or whatever kind of story, like a seduction or, these can be like a going to an event and having to be on stage. Like, what is going to surprise you about that something? And what's going to be interesting about it? And it's probably not the thing you thought right at the beginning. So, how do you create that experience? Well, for us, we use LLMs essentially as translators. So, here's the beat in plain English, and here's what the player's character is and what they're doing and the setting. And oh, by the way, there's vampires in this one. So, like, these rules have changed. Make this line of plot, fit all that. So it is a design that uses LLMs for what they're great at and not for what they're not.
A lot of these things are recurring, right? But the difference is that they're able to put their human level of taste on it. They can make it actually truly better because of that. And LLMs are probably, really more repetitive in the way in which they're using the trained information. So are you actually are you using your LLMs and training them on other people's content?
No, we don't train on our partners' content. So I should say, also we license content. So we actually like pay people who have brilliant ideas for the right to create games in those worlds. And then very soon we're going to roll out a tool where people can take something they've written or a world they've dreamed up and make it themselves. And we still have a rev share plan for that. Um, and no, we don't train models on that. And we do have in every turn of our game something around like 16 different machine learning tasks using a variety of what people now call classic machine learning because I am so old. But like things like classifiers, like how hard should that action someone typed in be in this environment in this moment, as well as LLMs that are, things that like only for the purpose and are open source or otherwise. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I think this is a good time. We're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about it indoor. Maybe we go
I
through the
think we'll do a demo. Let's see.
way so I'm not
Oh, yeah.
on the screen.
All right. So I'm going to show you what it is like to play on Hidden Door. And you've probably seen, we put up a couple posters, but go to hiddendoor.co. You can play on your phone. It's amazing. Of course, I'm going to say that. I'm going to show you our startup parody world because I get the sense many people here work in tech. And I'm going to do this pretty quick. And after I do this, we're going to collaboratively make a new world together. So please think of like, it's going to be a little bit like an improv show, except I'm not funny. So the machines will handle it. Um, what we do also is Burn Rate is a startup satire, but you can be like, okay, I want to. We actually rolled out Pirates today, so I'll add it in. I get all of them because I work there, but you all have to come and play and earn them. And then it sort of mixes in the ideas from that modifier. And these can be things like coffee shop AU, like everything's happening in the coffee shop, or it can be something fundamental like pirates. So let's make burn gold um, just to, sort of see what we're getting. And then we make a character and you get to either build it. There's a whole character maker. I assume people here play video games, so you know how that part works. But we can also be like a New Yorker and she really loves bagels because, you know, we're here in New York. Um, and it's gonna try and come up with like, oh yeah, there she is. We even got like East Coast hustle in the Wild West of tech. Yeah. Her bagel delivery startup. This is gonna be amazing. So we're gonna jump in. We get to pick the story we're gonna play. And here again, we're going to a co-working space for the first time. And you can also, after the first story, you can put in your ideas for what the story should be. So you can like pitch the system on what should happen next. You can make a whole cast of characters. You can play all three sides of a love triangle. And it sort of sets up a challenge for you. So we got an intern, we got not so bad on the tech office, like a co-working space. For people who are actually gamers or tabletop gamers, we do have like a whole like character sheet back here with actual stats and things, but not everybody cares about that stuff. So it's hidden. It's there if you want it. She is both a pirate and an intern, so we're gonna see what happens. And we are here in hyper enthusiastic intern. Welcome to Nimbus. What do we want to do? So here you can choose one of these options. This one, we have to roll the dice. It's hard for me. I attempt to hack the building smart lock. Probably that should be hard. I can thank her and ask for the Wi-Fi password, which seems like a very normal. I just did that when I walked in here, so it seems like a very normal thing to do. And then, yeah, great. Captain Jenica 123. And we got rollerblading guide because this is a startup. And then we could also try and type something like I jump up on the table and pitch my bagel idea. And a few things are going to happen. So here it's going to very quickly run the classifier I mentioned and say, is this easy or hard, or should it be a free action? It also makes sure that these are inputs allowed by this world. Like if we try to use magic or advanced technology or something sci-fi, it wouldn't work. But this is the whole idea. Basically, it's like light art, you're role playing, you have a character, and you can try to do whatever you want and be whatever kind of character you want. And your character changes as you play because of the choices you make. You get to meet all kinds of canon characters like Rollerblade Guy, which we don't seem to have in this office, but if you've spent a lot of time in San Francisco, you will meet him. He is part of the canon, and there's sort of like a goal. And that's more or less the game. I'd encourage you to play it yourselves. You can also make little like social media moments if you want to and share them. Strongly encourage you to do that. That's my job. I'm going to show you a not yet released product we are that allows you to make your own worlds and bring your own worlds to the platform. And I would love some audience participation here because that makes it way more fun. So this is a product designed, most of the people we work with are writers. They write novels or they are people who have made movies or TV shows, and they are very used to working in linear media where you get to write everything the way you want it and no players come in and they're like, no, I stand on the table and yell about bagels. And so what we have here is try to build a, experience that helps guide you to make an interactive role play world if you've never done that before, and make it as easy. You can spend 5 minutes on it or you can spend hours on it to make it as detailed as you want. And you can get into the weeds of the system here as much as you want to. So I'm going to start from an idea. Somebody give me an idea for a world, please.
About being a member in a Tony Sopranos crew. Then he was like,
Okay, that's a little bit of a copyright violation. So we're going to go with that's
New Jersey Mafia.
yeah, so Morgan will be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, are you from Jersey? Because you got no. You got a great accent. Cool. So what world does this feeling give us? What feeling does this world give us when we picture a night in the New Jersey Mafia? Somebody else has to help now. No feelings. Oh, closer? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a small fishing town in Alaska. Okay.
Oh, fishing. I heard that wrong. Okay. Fishing town in Alaska, and we'll just see what it does with that. Right. So what kind of, activities and roles in this Alaskan fishing town mafia setting? Anyone? Frisbee golf. Okay, we're not giving it a lot to work with, so like I do want to point out a few things. Like this is not a chatbot, right? Like it would be very easy to make a chatbot to do this, but this is not, because it is the writer or the creator's vision that is always primary. And that vision is coming together and changing as we type over on the right side. And even if we go back and change it, it's like, we're building a little piece of art over here, and everything we add in just adds some new bits.
Maybe we say that they're running a points shaving scheme on the Frisbee golf competition in this small fishing town in Alaska, New Jersey.
Well, now we need like character archetypes. So what are the character classes? So point shaving scheme people, whatever that means. The police, sure. I need someone else, please. Anyone got it? Yeah.
Renegade fisher boat cap.
Renegade fisher boat captains. Yeah. Okay. All right. So recurring story beats or thematic conflicts, we see defining life here. So I'm actually just gonna go with the inspiration because I like the mob's cod smuggling racket and an independent police play both sides. The town's annual Frisbee golf tournament doubles as a covert meetup for all the secret deals. Like, cool. So this is a combination of trope, and also your unique brilliance. And when we have to share royalties for this world, it's going to be a very complicated accounting question. But like,
You get a show for
yeah.
We'll just open source it since we're
We'll
Automattic.
open source it. Yes, we'll donate any proceeds. So here we get to decide: do we like this? Do we want to keep going? You can do that little wizard as long as you like. These are like the main plot beats, and then we say like, okay, let's make this world, and that's it. And we have really been trying. I said this already, but I'm going to say it again because I care about it a lot. To think about what a product experience is. Right? What did it do? Okay. That really works with how a writer or someone who's like your forever DM of your tabletop game thinks about their world building. We do not require perfectly polished prose, but we want to sort of pull out the themes and then build on them directionally so you can very quickly decide if you hate it, you love it. Like one of the writers who tested an early version of this with me, like it made she put one of her novels in because you can start from writing, and it gave it a title, and she was like, "Oh, I hate that. I'm going to change it." To me, that's success because it's a strong emotional reaction to something that she could then change and make better. And now I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but it's like the place where you set the laws of physics and you can actually go in and hand tweak how everything is expressed, how your world will look to people signing up. We need a display name, uh, meetup crew. We're going to be awesome here. And then, yeah, it's like, does it have magic? Does it have weird physics? What are the social norms? Is it like, normal? Who do the players get to be? These are suggestions. What is their backstory going to be based on? So every character you create will have a backstory. Who are the character classes? Okay, these are good. But like, and then we didn't make any canon characters. These would be collectible cards for the players to collect as they play. These are the opening story plots, Frisbee golf opening deal. And now we can go play it. And I think I'll pause the demo here, but if anyone is interested in giving us product feedback on this experience, we really, really want that. So please send us an email, and I have colleagues here as well. We will happily get you in a few weeks early. And hopefully this shows a lot about our philosophy and general approach to product design. And we will go back to that.
And I'll say it again, there's pink flyers around, so you can scan the QR codes or rip the tab off and take it with you to help you go build your own, play your own world. The building part is
The
to be
building
released.
part is, yeah, if we need an email address, and we'll add you to the feature flag, and you can play and make stuff. And then when we release it, you can choose if you want to make it part of the public release. No obligations. Yeah.
Yeah, I just ask a question. So, like, if I were to play, what's the challenge? It'd be like, here's your first challenge. Negotiate this shipment of cods from Jersey to Alaska. Like, does this keep giving you options?
Yeah, so you basically set up beginnings and goals, and then our players decide how they're going to role play their way to it or subvert it or, or meet it or not.
And one
And like,
just leads to another.
yeah, yeah.
And so that's something you're calling joy scrolling instead of doom scrolling.
Well, we call our social where you out of any story moment you can share like a little card that's like designed to share on Instagram or TikTok or like microblog services. We call that joy scrolling because you can come see the feed of it and it's all just people making ridiculous things out of their stories. And it's way more fun than looking at the internet.
I would say so. So one of the things that we have faced at Automattic when we build WordPress is the blank canvas problem,
Yep.
which is that people join they launch WordPress, they have a brand new WordPress install, it's a vanilla install, and how do they get building, right? And so there's endless options and thousands of extensions and tons of things that you could build. But what we just experienced there felt like very strong guardrails in the way in which you're kind of giving the creator the options to make decisions there. So it's a lot less about like having a completely blank canvas and much more about making decisions and prompts that are prompting you and you're not prompting it, right?
Yes. So there are multiple ways to create something by design. It's always a bad idea in product design to have different UIs for the same thing, but we broke that rule here because it's so important that people come in with either they've already written a novel. They're not going to go through a little wizard to like tell me about the novel. Why should they have to? All the information is there, so they can paste that in and then we'll pull out like what are the major plots and what's the setting and who are the major characters and model that and then they can adjust or change things around it. Or they can start from completely blank rules and like handwrite everything if they want to. But this is something that is sort of saying, like, okay, a lot of us have an idea. It might not even be a very good idea yet. And we want something that's going to prompt us to develop more conviction in that idea, like give us suggestions or ask. And again, it's not a lot of people have done interactive game design. So this is also guiding towards like, well, your players get to choose who they're going to be. So what is the range, the palette of options you want to give them? And yes, there are also guardrails, but ideally we don't run up against those because we're sort of like giving you something to react to, and either you love it, you hate it, or it's worse if it's mediocre. But then you can sort of be like, oh, I actually have to think about like what are the character classes in this world rather than the individual characters? And like, what is a backstory for a character who's coming into this world? Like, what are the questions you would want to ask them? And another thing you may have noticed is that on every panel, we give you examples of what it'll look like when it's rendered in the game so you know what you're doing. Because otherwise it's very abstract and you're just like writing your laws of physics and you have no feedback on like, how does that feel? Is it good? Is it bad? And all that stuff. Yeah.
So when we think about designing software, a lot of times what we're considering is like, how do we delight the user, right?
Yeah.
But you just said that mediocrity is actually bad, that you'd rather have them hate it or love it.
Yes.
And so that's because it has a strong emotional reaction. That's something they can actually do something with.
Right. So the end goal is that they will build something they love. They will fall in love with their own idea and they will see it in a way they didn't see it before and be able to share it.
Yep.
But to get to that goal, like we need to build an experience where you don't ever feel writer's block because it's so easy to get stuck and just walk away, or where like if you don't know what you're supposed to do, we're showing you examples so you can react and make something that's really unique. So yeah, I don't think having a like, oh, I hate this reaction is overall bad, but it's in the service of getting hopefully to something they will love.
Well, in fact, when we think about building websites and things like that, like actually an agency talking to a client and saying like, "Do you like this?" and then be like, "I'm not sure." That's actually pretty
Oh yeah.
bad feedback for that agency. But if they're like, "No, I hate that," it doesn't mean that their experience with the agency is bad. It just means that they don't like that, and that's pretty strong. They have strong feelings about that. So it's actually something you can actually use.
Great. And I also like building on that. I think that it is very easy to never surprise anyone. Surprising people is hard. And like it's very easy to do completely mid work, and LLMs are like all they do, like they're aspirationally mid. Um No, like seriously, they produce the average of, the token relationships that went into them with some, stuff on top. We don't need to go super deep, but like how do we do better than that? And it is to like try to do something a little riskier where if you don't have any bad ideas, like not you're probably very mediocre.
And so when you're designing a storyline, uh, is there a place that you go to like source some passion and like hear what people are like super excited about and actually loving and hating?
So this was a setup because earlier this morning, one of our colleagues was talking about how she was using Tumblr to get that very quick vibe of like, I don't know anything about baseball, but baseball fans are super passionate about baseball. What are the most passionate people? Like, how do they talk about it? How do they feel about it? And yeah, like trying to develop that empathy to like link it all the way back means sort of like lurking a little bit in that community and be like, what are the people who are into this? Like, I love that they're into it, but what are the words they use? Like, what do they talk about? What are they excited about? What do they hate? Um, and at Hidden Door, the work we do, we're often covering a wide range of genres. We may not have a huge personal background in all of them. So trying to very quickly like absorb that empathy to try and reflect things back
Yeah.
is super important. So yeah, Tumblr's great. If anyone here is from Tumblr,
We have a couple people from Tumblr.
yeah.
All right, so I think I can probably ask you one more question before we go to the audience for questions.
Okay.
But this month, Automattic is doing something called Radical Speed Month. We're working very hard to kind of eliminate the blockers and the hurdles and the bottlenecks around development. And so we're all pairing up and building something innovative that we feel like a customer can actually really benefit from.
That's great.
And so you and I were talking, and you have a bad ideas channel.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's an opportunity for people to like say, hey, I don't necessarily have time to work on this right now. I can't explore it, but I don't want to lose the thread. I'm going to dump it into this channel. What happens next after that?
Okay. So I will say our bad ideas are not even that well formed. Like sometimes it's like this is my co-founder Matt. His bad idea was the Fast and the Furious, but everyone's a cat. And
That's actually
like
not so bad.
no, it was amazing. But if anyone here is running a team or you're starting a company, right? We have a bad ideas channel. I've had this at every company I've been a part of because you want the things where somebody isn't sure yet if it's worth like having impact their reputation. You want that because that's where the great stuff lies, the risky stuff. Like the ideas that you see them and you're like, I don't know if this is the dumbest thing I have ever seen or genius. Like those are the good ones. But most of the time, and again, this is like how people are, we don't feel safe to share those ideas, or you might be embarrassed if you put something, in a very serious conversation and people are like, oh, no, that's too far out there. And so create a bad idea space, let people just dump their little random thoughts in it. I will say almost none of the ideas there are like actually bad. And even when they are, that's, we have the little like dad joke emojis and that's great.
But the label gives them permission to feel
Yeah.
safe.
So that is yeah, if you're running a team and I lead by example, I have actually bad ideas. And that is at least I have a place to put them, so I'm not thinking about them more. So at least there's also that psychological outlet. I don't know if other people have that need, but every idea has to go somewhere. Um, And then I actually did hope we were going to talk about this a bit. Like, I am a huge fan of several what we now call agentic software engineering tools, um, but maybe not in the same way that people would pitch them. And so a few weeks ago, again, this was somebody shared a very reasonable idea that was like someone built an open source project that if you have an extra token budget, it does all the things you never really want to do in your code base. Like it checks your linting and it runs your tests and like flags the ones you might not need anymore because your code has changed. And, I looked at that and I was like, hey, I love the idea of like end of the week extra token budgets. Like, let's do stuff. But I hate this because it's boring. And what if it could do something like it could actually make some bad ideas? And so I wrote a little Claude code agent that I call the Gremlins, and they collect the bad ideas. And then if I have any, I wouldn't put this on anyone else, but like if I have anything left in my like end of the week, token subscription for one of the services, they each have a personality. One is like the player advocate, one is the chaos monkey, and one is the like systems, the good engineer. We like her, but she's a little boring. And then they each pick an idea and they pitch it to each other. They critique the ideas and then they develop a design pitch. I do not actually generate the code because they're generally pretty bad ideas. But they get us thinking about like, where could our business go? What's possible? Like one of those gremlins pitched a like hidden door poly market where you place bets on other players' actions. And it's a terrible idea, like bad social dynamics, but we were talking about it. Like it changed a little bit of, the conversation we were having about our own product. So I would highly encourage you to make gremlins as well. Yeah. And I'll also say this is one thing I just want to put out there, which isn't really connected, but if we're thinking a lot about using LLM based tools for writing software in particular, it is the evals that matter and the context that matters. And maybe this is super obvious and everyone knows it. But if you're just playing with this stuff, think a lot about how you will know what good looks like. Is it testable? Is it something where you can have a qualitative evaluation and then create these loops so it's not let an LLM spit out some code and then it thinks it's great and it's not, but rather, like we have an eval that runs on every story that people play on our system automatically, which is part of our monitoring. Like, has something drifted in our system and the quality of stories is declining? Sometimes there's what we've been calling like the LLM weather, where like it just gets weird. Um, and that's the kind of thing that I'm particularly excited about because that is like actually a really big transformation in how we think about product design, content design, products. All right. Thank you for letting me steal the topic from this.
That's awesome. How much time we got left? 10 minutes. So let's make sure we give a chance to the audience. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and Caroline will run a mic over to you. I have
Testing,
questions up
testing.
here, but you're really close to a
I'm
question
really
right
close
there.
too. Here you go. Please stand up.
Hey, how's it going? I really, really loved your definition of taste. So I want to give you like a choose your own adventure. How do you convince stakeholders or folks with bad taste? And then how do you what are some exercises that you do to kind of improve or enhance or just like expand your taste or your palate, so to speak, pun intended?
Oh, I love that second question. So anytime you have people who need to make a decision and you're saying they have bad taste, but they have some taste, right? So it is thinking about it is that empathy of like, what do they think matters? How do I make it easy for them to comprehend and understand? And it depends on how bad their taste and appetite for risk is, but also like, how do I de-risk something? So if it goes weird, which they think it might, or they don't want to invest in it, they won't look bad. But if it goes well, they'll look amazing. Like this is classic corporate politics stuff.
You hated that.
I do.
But-
And
Navigate it well.
yes, I think it is a skill like any other. And it is really about understanding people and systems and their incentives and motivations, what they're afraid of, like, and also what they want. And also, like, I genuinely believe most people are really trying to do good work. Obviously, there are always people who are just there to like be sociopaths, but like for the most part, people are not that. And so it is then like really understanding how do you build trust? How do you over communicate and communicate in a style and a format that sort of like to meet them where they're at and bring them along with what you're doing. Because also, a lot of times people will sort of pitch an idea and it gets shot down, but that's not really a no. So it's more of a like, checking in like a week later, like, hey, I just wanted to tell you I'm still super excited about this, and here's something new. One idea, because also people who are in leadership are getting 500 emails a day, so like one idea at a time. And then it's the next week, like, oh, I'm still working on it. Like, here's the next thing. The other advice I will give you is like build your soft power of persuasion. So like if there is not already at your organization like a how to AI newsletter, start it and then you go around and you make everyone else look brilliant. So you go and you like talk to, this guy and you're like, "Hey, tell me the coolest thing you did." And you write that up, you send it out once a week. And that's the kind of soft power of persuasion where suddenly because you are convening, you are the authority. And it gives you a little bit of leverage that is not on a org chart, right? So it's sort of like shifting a whole organization's mindset, like just slowly by telling great stories that make other people like successful. And this is also something I would encourage if you're in an environment where diversity is a challenge, which is something that's been true in most companies I've worked at, is like who you highlight becomes like a stage for everybody. So there's a lot of power in that. Your other question, like how does one develop taste? I think it is like the most basic, boring answer, just reading extensively. And like, I've been obsessed with Umberto Eco's like work in semiotics and like how a piece of literature is not real until it's in the mind of the reader. And like, I also love New York City. Like, go see art, like, see weird art, have opinions about it, and then like, have friends you can throw those opinions against. And you might be wrong, and it doesn't matter. It's just, I think that staying in one domain is limiting. And so, like, getting out and learning and experiencing things that are in completely different worlds to what you spend your 8 hours a day at least thinking about is the way. That's the best I've got. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I concur.
Sweet. We're still not fighting.
Next question over here.
Is there a feedback mechanism for creators where they can see after the fact what elements of their story are driving engagement? And do you plan to have any way for them to A/B test story elements and see whether it's driving usage or driving player happiness?
Yes to the first. So with our licensed worlds, like we did a world for The Crow, which was a big 90s movie if you were like a 90s goth kid, but they had a new movie a couple years ago, not as big, but like we did a world around that. And the producers were like actually really excited to get the like, oh, this is how people are playing in this world information. And we do have a whole like stats and metrics. This is a brand new product, so product direction is still really open, and we're waiting to see what people want before we commit to anything like that. Um, but I do think that some visibility into what people do and how they do it is super important. I don't know if it would be an A/B test or something else.
Thank you.
Yeah, come build something.
Do we have a next one? Next one. I'm gonna go over here first.
Hey, I'm Andre. I actually lead Tumblr here at Automattic. So really, thank you for nice words. But I was curious, for your game generation, I assume did you say that you use a custom LLM as opposed to like general purpose, right?
We use a variety of
Mm.
different LMs, mostly open source.
Okay. Have you considered like building a custom one, or like mostly it just works like it's so knowledgeable about everything in the world and
Yeah, I mean, we have built some custom models. And in fact, the first version of Hidden Door did not use LLMs at all and had somewhat more overhead, but was an otherwise like fairly indistinguishable experience. And our operational costs are very low because we do only very small, light LLM tasks, like sort of at the end of the line. We pre-compute a lot of stuff. Um, and I am very like we have an infrastructure that lets us swap things in and out. So we were talking about that, as something we might pursue, but that's sort of a tomorrow roadmap exercise.
thank you.
Anybody next? Right here, maybe? I'll come back there, I promise.
Before you ask your question real quick, if you have a question, just raise your hand real quick just so that I can get like a understanding of how many people are left. Okay, so we're good. Yeah, keep going.
I'll keep it a quick one. Can you share a little bit about how you build the actual like products as well? Like how much of your time do you spend building infrastructure for all the stuff you build in the area? How much do you spend on the creative side? How much do you spend on the actual product side? Like, what does that look like behind the curve?
Do you mean me personally, or do
Just
you mean
generally in the team and how stuff is working out.
Yeah, so we are a startup, meaning we don't really know what we're going to be when we grow up. We're building a business. We're still at the very early part of it, which means most of our energy goes into building our audience and being in our community and into our product. And we deliberately try to spend as little time on like ops and system issues as much as we try to be very smart about the decisions we make so that we don't have to spend that time. And that means we use like hosted services for the like all of our web stack and try really hard not to invent things if we don't need to. And we use a Postgres database for our game engine layer because that makes sense and it's easy and it's like very reliable and it's not going to surprise us. And I have learned a lot of lessons about using new databases for things when those databases are still like changing from prior projects. So less on that, but as I said earlier, we've been very thoughtful about we can pre-generate and design a gameplay workflow that scales. So if we suddenly got 1 million players tomorrow to like all come in, it should all work and we would not go broke. So like I would say we're super smart. We spend a lot of time on product, a lot of time on content, and a lot of time on community, like business audience building. I will also say, and there are 3 of my team members here. So there's Hadi in the back and Matt up here, and I don't know where Rourke is hiding. She's our amazing narrative designer. You should ask them all your questions too. But I tend to give people like existential crises about their jobs because I love working with people who are great at one thing, but then have interests in other areas, and we don't keep them in a box. Like we want everyone we have engineers who write content. We have content designers writing code sometimes. Like we really want everyone to think across the whole problem because it makes our shared mental model of it so much better.
I'm actually curious because you're touching on something. You have a 8-person team, is that right?
Yeah.
And what are we looking at? Are we looking at like 6 developers and 2 narrative writers? Like how does that shape out?
Well, like I said with the existential crises, how do you define a developer? Is it
Right.
anyone who writes code?
I don't know.
Because then, it's pretty much all.
Then we're all developers, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
So a lot of multitasking then.
yeah, we all do a lot of everything. I will say we have at least 3 of us with like strong machine learning AI backgrounds and PhDs. We're sort of guided, but also a lot of practical software experience. Yeah,
Very cool.
like
I think Jeff has a question.
yeah.
Thank you. You mentioned when you were talking about AI and the interaction with the model, the word eval. As someone who does this a lot, I was very interested because when you say eval, you mean you put in a prompt and it doesn't ChatGPT, this is great. You want to bounce back with something. You want to say, is this right? Can you talk more about that eval work?
Sure. I meant that actually at a somewhat higher level of like, and this is true whether it's a like AI system doing work or a person doing work. How do you know that it's done? How do you know that it's good? And um, I would argue that you can never get more than bad work out of an LLM based system if you don't have strong evals, which might be doing test driven development. So you have like quantitative tests that are going to break, and then you're going to have the LLM do stuff until the tests pass. Um, and that's one layer. But then if you want to take that sort of model of management and context, which people are now calling like agentic software development, um, which is like, 100 LLM calls in a trench coat and maybe some tool usage. Like, you need to have ways that you can quantify if something is good enough. And I'm really interested in exploring that for content because you can generally rate content on like, is it coherent? Do we respect player autonomy? Like, is it surprising? Does it match the sort of template it was built off of? But that's not perfect either. So that's what I meant by more of a conceptual.
And it can backfire too because of evals poorly and go into this loop of giving you bad things, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Are we at the end?
We have
Alright.
room for one more if anybody has a burning question. All good?
No? Okay.
Okay.
All right, so before we wrap up, I just want to say real quick that our next Dev AI NYC event will be on May 21st. We hope to see you there. For now, please enjoy food, drinks, and conversation here at Automattic's NoHo space. And join me in thanking Hilary
Thank
for
you
here
for
being
inviting
here.
me.